I was actually just thinking that the point that you made, Manu, earlier about how it's not going to be in Japanese isn't something that really crossed my mind before. And thinking about that more now, it is something definitely worth thinking about, because I know that for me, I definitely like watching something in its original language. It doesn't even have to be just anime, any sort of series, anything, any sort of form of media. I prefer watching it in its language, watching the sub, reading the subs and having to watch the dubbed version.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what blew my mind in regards to that? The amount of people I know who watch Squid Game in the dub. That is...
Yeah.
Like, so many people did that. It makes me so uncomfortable.
Which is very interesting, actually, because I did a reaction series, sort of like a mini reaction review series for Squid Game. And even reading the subs, I actually noticed that there's so much nuance that you miss out between the Korean and the English. And I'm sure that's obviously something that we talk a lot about in, when we cover One Piece as well. Maybe Manu, you pick up on things that we don't. But there's obviously, nuanced details that you obviously miss out on by not watching it in its original language. And then, nuance that gets missed through the subs. And then to think about, not even watching it in the original language and then having to watch it in the dub, I think it takes you out completely out of the experience.
Absolutely. No, I think especially for I can't speak for Korean, but Japanese definitely has so much nuance in how things are pronounced, in certain words that are used, right? Like, it can be like I, and I isn't I necessarily, as you probably know, or as maybe if you know, probably in Japanese there's many different forms of I. Some is more female, some more male, some for older people, some for young kids. For example, if a girl uses like the male form, it automatically in Japanese gives her like this more rowdy, like tomboyish kind of yeah. Other than like if you translate that with I, like that nuance is just completely lost, which is like always like a great example, I think.
What happens there in English is that the actors try to compensate for that, and then they give the girl like a particularly rough sounding voice.
Yeah.
Sasuke, come back to the village.
Yeah, classic female protagonist Naruto.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier. It's like that's the worst moment when you actually want to watch like an anime clip on YouTube or something, and you click on it and it's actually the dub, and you're like immediately like cringe close.
Why would you hurt me like this?
Yeah. This is sort of on an unrelated note, but I suppose adjacent to this, is I was actually watching a trailer for a Korean horror film that's going to come out. Oh, it's not Korean actually, because it's American. Well, it's Korean American. It's starring Sandra Oh. It's named Oma, which is the Korean word for mum or mother. And I was watching the trailer clip for it. And now I can't say a lot because I didn't really look into the details of the movie so much, but there is a Korean man who speaks Korean in the trailer. But as I was watching, I couldn't help but notice that he doesn't sound Korean at all. And I find that there are so many instances where I've found this watching like American or watching, English films where someone speaks Korean, but you can obviously tell that they're either not Korean or they just have a very like westernized accent. Maybe they were like me and, grew up in America, grew up, somewhere else. And obviously their accent no longer sounds Korean. And it just baffles me because it's sort of just, it was just baffling me. Like, surely if I couldn't, from what I could see in the trailer, it didn't seem like he was going to play a huge role. So I don't particularly think that his character is extremely important to the film, and maybe I'm like judging too quickly. Maybe he is quite important, so his him as an actor was pivotal, that they needed this actor. But in other parts, I'm just thinking, could you not have just found someone who can speak Korean so that it isn't so stilting for people to watch when they're, trying to enjoy the film?
I think that Western has recently got a dose of exactly what you're talking about with Squid Game, as I brought up before. The VIP speaking English in Squid Game is, I imagine, what you're going through when you hear someone speaking Korean in an American film.
And I had the pleasure of experiencing that in Squid Game as well. I had it on both sides. That's an experience
that Liam might not share as much, because me as a German, like obviously, like there have been German characters in Hollywood movies and shows before, and like 80% of the time it's just what you say. It's like, that dude, that's not German, like, or like he like no. And then really, but like I feel like it's like a missed opportunity, because automatically when you hear someone actually like, oh, that guy actually either took the time to learn those lines properly or is actually a German actor, or like someone who speaks German automatically gives your movie so much more credibility. But then again, they're
exactly.
probably like, the average American
Doesn't
will
matter.
probably
Yeah.
no, like,
Won't realize.
I will
sounds-
say I've never noticed any weird German in the films that I've consumed.
No, I
there
can't
is
say that
a
either.
lot.